hustlers, road players, tournament champions. Hear the stories, get their advice, learn about their lives. Our host, Joey Ryan, brings you an inside look at the professional pool player. You're listening to the Pool Player Podcast, brought to you by Pool Scene 365.
Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast, supporting the channel. I really appreciate all that you guys have done. Do me a favor, if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, the more cool things we can do with this show. Also, feel free to like it and share it. And I read every single comment. So please share some comments about things that you'd like to see in the show, things that you'd like to see me do better, any feedback that you have whatsoever, I'm open to it. Today's guest is the managing director of Matchroom Mult Sport, Emily Frazer. I was so excited to be able to interview her, and she talks about her start at Matchroom and really climbing her way through that company. We also go into the challenges that COVID-19 presented for Matchroom and, what she plans to do to kind of take Matchroom out of that coming into 2021. We discussed the favorite moment that she has from past Mosconi Cups, as well as a preview of this year's Mosconi Cup. So I was really excited to interview her, and I think you guys are going to like this. So thanks again for your support. So far, you've been one of the most requested guests on the show. When I ask people who they want to hear from, it's been you. So I'm really excited to find out more about you and to talk about Matchroom and the upcoming Mosconi Cup. So just to get started, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to Matchroom.
Oh gosh, well, I think everyone always knows it's probably why I get requests for it, that I'll always be really honest in anything that I ever say, probably just because I rarely have a filter. Oh gosh, background, how long do we have? I'll try and keep it as short as possible. It's my 10th year at Matchroom. It was this May or June. I reached my 10 years there. Not going to lie, started off making teas and coffees. My dad knew Barry through the poker scene, because obviously they were quite heavily invested in poker back then, Matchroom. And I remember he said to Barry, "Oh, please, we've got some work experience for my daughter." And when I was at school, I was such a little shit. The amount of times I'd get suspended because just for being just a bit of a rat bag as such, probably quite an English term. I just didn't want to, sit in a classroom and work. But I would never get kicked out because the teachers all liked me. And all I was interested in was going to school. I would finish school and then I would go and do a gymnastics class where I would teach gymnastics. So I have qualifications, they probably expired by now, to teach gymnastics. And then I would go and work in a bar for the evening straight after. And then I would also work in a poker club. And sometimes you do the shifts of 11 till 5 a.m. in the morning sort of thing. And then I would go straight in sort of the next day as such. So all I ever wanted to do was just earn money and just work and be on my hands and feet sort of thing. When I was obviously younger, I did a bit of work experience and I just started off making teas, coffees. I just was just a bit relentless in what I did. Really, really enjoyed coming on board for Matchroom. It was totally new for me. I didn't even know what pool was. I had no idea. All I really knew about was poker because that was my background. So I came in working under Katie Hearn, which is Barry's daughter, and that was in the TV department. So my background is very TV production. That's why I think it's probably a strength of mine, because you look at the big arenas and how we televise things, and that's obviously where it's all sort of come on board. And so I did a good few years in TV, and then I got an opportunity to come on board to special events, which it was called at the time. They did the Mosconi Cup, the World Cup of Pool, fishing, 10-pin bowling, and they were events that I'd kind of worked on with the TV department, but I hadn't been predominantly or in charge as such. Came on board, that was totally different. I absolutely loved it. Loved anything to do with events. if it was up to me, I'd be back to back at an event, living from a suitcase. I thrive under pressure. I love being under pressure. I think it's probably it brings out the best in me. So that, which is a little bit weird as such. So yeah, I've just kind of been at Matchroom grinding away. It's a family business as such. You know, once you're in, it's kind of in your blood as such. So I absolutely love it, really.
Well, that's a great story, from making tea all the way to where you are right now. You know, it's kind of, you know, I'm over here in the United States, and that's what we call the American dream, right? Where you just come in at the ground level and you just put in hard work and effort and you make it. And so congratulations for that. But also, I think you were recently promoted to managing director of Matchroom Mult Sport. And so what other sports do you manage in that role?
Goodness me. Well, hopefully just going to keep growing. Obviously, we're very dominant in pool, and that's obviously a huge passion of mine. And I've really grown on pool has grown on me a lot. We also look after fishing. We also look after 10-pin bowling. Gymnastics we've done a bit in with Simone Biles from USA. Ping pong. Snooker, we do 2 snooker events, and we've recently just expanded our snooker events as well. One of our Championship League snooker is now a ranking event, which was, you know, great for us here, and it's something that's really sort of developed in COVID as such, and so that's been really, really exciting to just be back to back. Love to get into a little bit of cheerleading. It's huge in the United States, and it's becoming quite big over here. The teams are getting a bit stronger, nothing like they are in the United States. But that's something I'd love to get my claws into as such. So lots of different avenues, a bit of netball, a bit of basketball. A lot of our sports, we're very much a one event a year as such. Pool is the front runner, where we actually have more than one event. And I'm not going to stop there. I'm definitely going to keep that ticking on and keep our pool events growing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, with this new role, taking on these other events, these other sports, I was going to have you reassure us that pool was still going to get the attention, because I think all the pool fans are just so excited about what you guys have done and what you continue to do with the sport. So it sounds like you are reassuring us that pool will still grow.
Oh, there's no concern there. Like I said, pool is a huge passion of mine. The more pool events that sort of take on board, the more passion I grow. As such, don't get me wrong, I do love some of our other sports, and being back to back with snooker recently, we had 21 live days of that, straight into the Champion of Champions, a 7-day event. And I was buzzing off of the snooker, and I love the snooker. I'd love more snooker. But it's still, I did a tweet about it recently, actually. On Twitter, it's more predominant on snooker fans than it is on pool, you know, as such on Facebook. And I think I said something like, yes, someone said something about our Champion of Champions event. And I said, yeah, snooker's great, but pool is where my heart truly lies, and where the most excitement is, because it's true at the end of the day. I will not stop until pool is just on a totally different level. There's so many promises that I could sit here and make and be like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. To be quite honest, I don't really know what our plans are. This year is a perfect example for it. We never know what's going to happen. I think that anyone in the industry, all you can know is that we're always going to be here trying relentlessly to grow pool, but to also professionalize it more, have more events, have more of a tour in the US. There's so much that I'd like to do. Obviously, it's step by step. There's not a lot of money in pool as well. So we're a business at the end of the day. We have to be very smart about what we do. But there's no concern at all about us stepping the foot off the gas for pool.
So I just love your passion, and I love how expressive you are about, you know, your desire to grow pool. But before we dive into some specifics there, I'm curious, like, do you have any hobbies or anything you do outside? I get the feeling you work a lot. What do you do for fun outside of work?
I don't have a life. I genuinely have zero life. As anytime I sit and meet with Barry, he always says, "Oh yeah, you don't really have much of a life, so it's fine." I mean, that's what I signed up for. That's why I'm in the role that I am. It's, you know, it's the sacrifices that you make. I've come from a very, very strong family, so I'm real big on family as such. You know, you don't have to have loads of friends as such, but you have your close knit. As long as I have my family, which I know I do, and sort of my close friends around me, that's all that I need. But you know, this weekend it'll be working relentless because we've got the Mosconi Cup. A little bit different because we're in lockdown. Love working out. I think fitness is a huge thing for anyone in life, just your mental health. I feel like I'm better and a stronger person at my own job when I'm working out, when I'm going, you know, tonight I might go out for just a run in the evening just because I know it makes me feel better. I do miss seeing my friends, I'm not going to lie. But we get to normally travel, you know, here, there and everywhere, and we're working on events. So not many hobbies, no, except from work.
Yeah. So I'd like to spend some time talking about the Mosconi Cup, but before I do, you know, you mentioned the challenge that 2020 has presented, and it's all across the industry, you know, but tell us, you know, some specifics, like how difficult has 2020 been, and, you know, how do you see you guys rebounding in 2021?
Do you know what? It's not even about rebounding in 2021 because we've been rebounding now. Even though obviously we're not as heavy in the pool industry as such, but as Matchroom Mult Sport, we have been pushing back, obviously, despite the current situation. We have live snooker, live darts, live boxing, all on whilst we're in a national lockdown here in the UK. Obviously, elite sport can continue under government guidelines, but we're back to back with these events, and there isn't anyone out there that's really doing this sort of stuff. A lot of, you know, it is very sad. So a lot of companies and businesses are obviously not doing well in this current situation, and it's just great that obviously we can still provide live sport on TV, because all anyone is doing is sort of sitting at home as such. Obviously it's been a huge challenge for everyone. I personally was at the Predator and CSI events in March this year. I actually went there with my colleague Abigail to do some final costings for the US Open. I was going out there, all systems go, ready for the US Open in May or whenever it was scheduled for. I've totally forgotten. And then, you know, we're out there and things just change by the minute. They change by the hour, they change by the day. And you have to learn to react. And it is a horrible situation. I do believe in silver linings, and I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I think in situations like this, it's brought a lot of people together. Some people that may not, you know, agree with people in certain situations, but in this, everyone just comes together and just works together. And that's something that I've really loved from this situation. And it's like brought our own team closer together, because you have to find new ways to work in these current situations. But also, we've learned so much stuff. There's things that we would never have, you know, put to a tournament that we haven't learned from being in COVID and not having spectators as such. When we did our first event in June this year, we were the first live sport back here in the UK. Huge achievement. And I'll always remember that. It was tough as hell. 2 weeks, it was, I think it was the day after my 30th birthday, we said, right, we're going to do it. And I was like, for goodness sake, I just want to like drink some champagne for once in my lifetime and enjoy my 30th birthday. But you know, that's not what we're about. We had 2 weeks. We put together this Championship League snooker in a total lockdown bubble scenario. Everyone was turning up with their hair all over the place. They hadn't had a haircut. Like my roots had grown out. My nails weren't done. But it's like, it's just small things, because it brings everyone together, because you are all experiencing it. And the things that we did at that tournament, we just learned so much from certain people that don't actually need to be at an event, certain areas where you maybe spend a bit too much money on, or you can apply that money to somewhere else, which is actually served better. You just learn so much from it. Fan engagement that we've been doing at our Champion of Champions event, the Weber Cup 10-pin bowling event we did. Day one of that, we learned from it that I will apply to the Mosconi Cup. I love a challenge at the end of the day. And I think that if anything, we've learned a lot from this year. And it's just going to make 2021 even bigger for us, because we can bring in new pool events potentially now, because there's another way of producing these events that we've kind of figured out. Something that may have cost us a lot more, there's cheaper ways of doing things now. There's cheaper ways of broadcasting and live streaming as such. So if anything, we're going to be bouncing back from this. I think my only concern is, obviously, this is me talking here in the UK. I'm obviously very disconnected from the United States, and it's harder to determine where we're at over there with the US Open and things like that. So it's a lot easier for us to have the events over here and to control those. So my only concern is obviously our events taking place over there. That's something that we're just going to have to keep an eye on, really.
Yeah, in the United States, we're a lot more fragmented, right? You have the states that run a lot and make a lot of decisions, and the federal government not as much, So, but yeah, I'm sure that'll all pan out in the end. So you mentioned, folks showing up to your event with hair unkempt, and it kind of got me thinking about the USA mullet invasion that's going to happen in a few weeks, and so. Let's talk about the Mosconi Cup. So first, this year is going to be different without fans. I mean, fans are such a huge part of that event. I've shared this story on here before, but as I was preparing to do this podcast, my wife and I were researching. She was helping me out. And I showed her a bunch of videos on YouTube, and I would show her all these different pool matches. And then I flipped to one that was a Mosconi Cup match, and she was like, "Wait, what is that? It's amazing." And I'm like, that's the Mosconi Cup. And you're right. It is amazing. And just the fans, the energy, how are you going to be able to replicate that this year with no fans?
Fuck knows. No, I'm joking. Look, I don't want to give all my secrets away. I think we're all very much aware that the Mosconi Cup is not going to be the Mosconi Cup without fans. Obviously, we're in a national lockdown here until the 2nd of December, which is halfway through the event. Quite clear we're not going to be allowed to have spectators in. But the arena is going to look fantastic, because that's what we're good at. So no doubt about that. One thing that we experienced recently at the Weber Cup was it's also USA versus Europe in 10-pin bowling. And it's an event that is solely reliant on fans. So I was very concerned when we switched to no spectators for that event. And the first match that happened, the players walked out, and I was standing in the arena, and when you get that shiver and your ears go to your shoulders and you basically just want to crawl up and die. I was in the arena and I felt that there was no atmosphere. It just felt horrible for the players. It felt dead, but it looked absolutely cracking on TV. I went back and watched the walk-on TV, and it looked absolutely fantastic. So obviously the fans at home are a huge concern, and we will have that sorted. You are sitting at home, you will feel the atmosphere coming through your TV, no matter what. So don't worry about that. My concern is the players, to be fair, because that's the harder job. There's only so many people that me and 5 of us can stand there just clapping to pump them up. No. So what I really need to concentrate is when they walk into that arena, that they're pumped up. And if you can see that passion and that fire on their face, then you're watching from home and you know that no matter what, whether there's 3,000 fans in there or me and 5 of the multi-sport team and some cameramen, they're still going to feel the pressure. It's the Mosconi Cup at the end of the day. It's the biggest event on the pool planet. Yeah. So the prestige of the event is there. Our job is to try and communicate this to the players in the arena. I'm 99.9% confident that we will fulfill that. We're putting things into place just to ensure that when they're walking out there, they go, oh, fuck, this is actually kind of cool. And I'm actually quite nervous here. They'll still have shivers on the back of the neck. Trust me, it will happen. I obviously don't want to sell myself out here and make a big song and dance about it. But at the end of the day, this is what we need to do. We need to make sure it's exciting for the fans. Look, day one, first match, if it's not, then trust me and the team will be sitting upstairs thinking of a way to turn it around to ensure that the rest of the day or the rest of the tournament is better. We won't go out there, 6:30 that night and say, okay, this is what we're delivering. If something doesn't work, we'll change it. That's the beauty of how we work. We can adapt very quickly. And that's something that this whole situation has taught us, and just being in this industry has taught us as well. So there's a lot of engagement that's going to happen. Fans can also send in their selfies online, and so they can potentially appear in the arena. I don't want none of this cardboard stuck out thing. I spend fortunes on that arena. I'm not having cardboards all sitting around as such. And there's no seating in place. Like, why would we spend so much money on seats for no one to sit in them? It's not a football stadium or an NFL stadium where the seats are already there. So fans will be able to have their selfies in the screen, and they'll still be able to get on camera.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, just hearing about it, I'm so excited for it. I wish it was tomorrow. So
I don't.
Oh yeah, you have a lot to do, I know. So over the years, do you have like a favorite moment from the Mosconi Cup events? Is there something that kind of stands out as like really super memorable for you?
I'm not obviously like your avid pool hardcore fan, because I won't pretend like I know about the sport. I think I get a little bit of stick for it, that I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. That I know what my strengths are. I can put on a bloody great event, and I can put on a good show. I know a little bit about pool. I know that, changing, when we were at the US Open last year, we were sitting in this situation, and everyone kept saying, oh, the rack and the break for the US Open, you've got to do the 3-point rule, and you've got to do it from the behind the line, blah, 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 blah. And obviously I'm your casual sports fan. I'm the person that I want our events to appeal to, because at the moment we have a pool audience here. That's all well and good. Like, love these people. I want to keep engaging with these people. You are our number one supporters. But this sport will never grow unless we appeal to the wider audience, more sponsors, more tournaments, everything. We will never appeal to a wider audience unless we get outside of our little stuck bubble and think, what does your casual sports fan want to watch? They don't have a Scooby about the 3-point rule. It took me, I remember the first tournament I worked on, and someone was trying to explain it to me. It was still in play for one of our Matchroom events. And I was like, what is this 3-point? And I couldn't get it around my head. And like, now I understand it, obviously. And we sat there for the US Open and kind of just sat there and said, well, why won't just stop letting the players from looking at the rack? Because they're seeing the rack and they're figuring out what to do. Okay, we'll stop them from looking at it. That's obviously a very out of the box sports kind of thing. I think if you're too involved in the sport, you can't do things like that. Sometimes you need to see it from a step back as such. So when we're at the US Open and we sort of looked at something like that, that was totally different. And that's something that we can sort of apply. Oh my God, I've totally forgotten what you asked me, and I've just gone off on a tangent.
No, it's okay.
There must have been a link somewhere.
It's okay. It's really okay, because it reminds me of something I want to kind of address. I recently had Ozzy Reynolds from CSI on, and we were talking.
Great guy.
And I think you kind of pointed out, yeah, he is a great guy. I think you kind of pointed it out too, which is sometimes what the players want is the opposite of what we need to attract regular people to the sport, right? So the players want the tightest tables and the longest races and basically making the game boring, right?
Yeah.
But ensuring the best player always wins. But your casual fan doesn't want the best player to always win. I myself, I always root for the underdog, and so I think you're right. Taking a step outside and having someone who doesn't really come at it from the pool perspective can find ways that are kind of creative to say, how do we make this sport appeal to the casual fan, or the regular person? Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally forgot what you asked me.
I was asking if you had a favorite moment from.
Oh my gosh, yes. Favorite moment. So I was going somewhere with that. Because I'm not too heavily in the pool. I think I probably know more about pool than I let on. But my favourite moment was in 2018 when USA hadn't won for so long. And obviously I was getting to the point where I was thinking, what do we now do with the Mosconi Cup? Our viewing figures are shit. No one's tuning in for it. Only the Europe are tuning in because they love seeing like a whitewash. But as much as a whitewash is good and fun and it's, funny or whatever, it's not good for the event. So for me, all I wanted was USA to win, because for the future of the event, we needed that to happen. Otherwise, the next year was going to turn into like a celebrity special. We would have taken 10 years back in the sport if we had done something like that. But unfortunately, it was going to have to come to something as bad as that. So it was when Shane knocked in that 9 ball and I was sitting in that arena and I was like, wow, okay. And so that will always stick in my mind because of the event. Unfortunately, when the play is actually happening, I can't always sit there and actually enjoy the sport. You're sort of looking around, the screen's working. Is that person in their seat enjoying themselves? You're just looking around at everything. I think someone once gave me shit about being on my phone all the time. That I could literally be standing there and I could see something's happening and it's not meant to be happening. Go on your phone, right, this isn't happening, gets done like that. You can look over there, that person's looking up at the screen. Why are they looking at the screen funny? Okay, no, the screen's actually not showing the right thing. Okay, message, da 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 da. This person's doing this in the audience, get them on camera. Okay, da 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 da. And so it's all you're doing is you're there and you're literally looking at everything. You don't actually watch the pool, which is a shame. I don't not watch it because I don't enjoy it. I love it. I can't sit there and watch snooker because it would bore the life out of me. But the pool, I really, really love it. But unfortunately, like I said, at the events, I can't sit there and watch it because you're too busy looking at everything else. So, yeah, but USA coming back, that's been my favourite so far.
Yeah. And, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, even though Europe did have on paper better teams all those years that they were winning. We're talking races to 5, anybody can win that. And it was almost like it was psychological. And so when the US did win that year, I mean, that was just huge for the event, for the sport, and it really got the United States excited again, to where now, even though, again, it looks like we're underdogs on paper in the US, we kind of feel like, hey, we got this momentum now. So what if we can put together a run like Europe put together, So I wanted to kind of ask you, with the teams that were selected this year, who do you think from each team were the most intriguing picks?
From this year, I think Chris Robinson was a ballsy pick from the captains. I think both Jeremy and Joey, obviously it falls under Jeremy's shoulders, but he has Joey there to support him. I think they both knew they were going to get a lot of stick online. And what I respect is that they wanted to make a decision. They believed in that choice. And every time I spoke to JJ, he goes, I know the fact, I know people aren't going to like it. That's what he kept saying to me. He's like, people aren't going to like it, Emily. He's like, but it's the right choice. And that's what he kept saying. I said, look, at the end of the day, you need to win the event. That's what your job is. Your job isn't to be liked or to pick the right person, because you and I could both pick one person and you could think it's right and I could think it's wrong. You're never going to please everyone at the end of the day. So huge respect to them two for choosing someone who they wanted to choose without having to, without being pressured by any other situation. For Team Europe, I think obviously everyone loves that Albin's got back in, but I think he was just like a natural to come back into the tournament. I think there was probably like a question mark hovering over someone like Kachi. His performance hasn't always been as strong at the Matchroom events. It's something I always dig him out for, just as like banter, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, on paper, his record proves in other events that he's a real talented player. He's also a great ambassador for the sport as well. So I think he was like a tough one to sort of get over the line as such. So I'm pleased they went for him. And also, I do think Jason he's your crowd man. There is no crowd. So that's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Fedor coming off of a natural from the rankings as well, from the Matchroom pool rankings. And well, Filler's just Filler. I have recently compared him to the Judd Trump of Paul, which is, he's huge in snooker. He just turns up, he plays, he wins. So natural to him. And I think Josh Filler's basically the same as such.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you can take us kind of behind the scenes of the Mosconi Cup, for those of us that just enjoy it, watching the stream or on TV, and it's just, beautiful lights and, fans and excitement. But give us an idea of when you start planning that event, what all goes into it, and, maybe something we don't see behind the scenes.
Well, I think all of a sudden, like now, we're looking at obviously next year's dates for the Mosconi Cup, so that can obviously put things into perspective. Things are a little bit different now with COVID. Planning is a lot more short-sighted. I try to encourage the team to focus on what's here and now kind of thing, because in 3 months something could change. So it's just to, and at the moment, not a lot of stuff is going out, and if it is going out, it's not the best. So what we need to be doing is ensuring that we are getting a tournament out there, and we're delivering it on TV, and it's also enjoyable for the fans. And this is our one opportunity to really spike viewing figures for the Mosconi Cup. It's been one of those events. It's a fantastic event, but there's so many like illegal streams and things like that, and it really makes pools suffer, because at the end of the day, if we don't get the viewing figures, when I turn around to a sponsor and say, come on board for the Mosconi Cup, these are our viewing figures, these are our social media figures, this is that, and they look at it and go, well, no one's watching it. Why would they want to sponsor it? They get no value, they get no brand exposure. So when people are looking at like these illegal streams, it's not it going into our pocket as such, it's for us building the event, it's for us building the sport. Such a frustrating thing. It's one of those things where I just literally would slam my head against the wall a million times to try, and I think it's just a lack of understanding. People just think if they click onto DAZN, then that $9.90 whatever goes straight into my pocket to pay for my hoodie or something like that. But it's not like that. It's a big world out there, and we need to get sponsors on board, and I'm pretty sure it's no secret that there is zero money in pool. I mean, if we're struggling, then I'm sure everyone is as such, and we have the biggest events. So I do think that we need to really push on our viewing figures this year. That's something that we can really look at. Behind the scenes, I mean, to get an insight from that, I don't know whether they'd be too, not scared, but they'll be too concerned to share it, but the players probably see this the most. I could probably walk out into the arena, huge smile on my face, absolutely fine, and 30 seconds before I could have been crying backstage. It's I'm not a heavy crier, like I can go to a funeral and not cry kind of thing. I think the only thing that makes me cry is like a Harry Potter film or something, because I get overwhelmed with joy. So I'm not a heavy crier. I think recently one of the photographers got this picture of me from the US Open where I'm literally sitting there crying. And he posted it, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, cheeky bugger, I can't believe, like, how, one, I don't remember him being there. Two, like, how's he done that? And but then I was like, you know what? It is what it is. It's kind of reality. That was when our container hadn't arrived at the US Open and shit was really hitting the fan for us. You know, we're in the United States. It's a UK Cup-based company. It's 2 a.m. at home. You can't reach anyone. No one knew where this container was. Obviously, we've learned from the situation. You learn from everything at the end of the day. But behind the scenes, it's really tough. And something that we've been experiencing lately is that we're obviously working in these bubble environments where you are, once you get your test, you go and isolate in your room, you get your negative result, and then you come into the bubble. And this bubble can be the hotel there, the venue there, catering here. You can't leave this bubble. You can't go outside to the shop. If you go outside and leave the bubble, you've got to come back, you've got to test, you've got to isolate in your room for like 12 hours and come back again. So you end up, the people that you work with, you're there with them all the time. Yeah. Obviously, these are stressful times as it is in an event. You do become kind of just succumb to the event, and you forget what the outside world is kind of like. And so it is tough behind the scenes, and you need to keep morale high. That's one thing that I try and do. It's obviously very difficult as well. But it's also fun to work on at the end of the day. It's, you know, we're all in these jobs because we love them. We work long ass hours, but again, that's why we're here. We love what we do. I think, like I said earlier, I thrive off of the pressure, and I think probably my team do as well. We all do. And so when we're under pressure, it's when we're working the best, and that's when you can really get it out of us. I love being in the arena and just seeing everyone enjoy themselves. That's what I love. I love seeing like the sweat on one player's face because they're losing, and then the smirk on the other player's face who's winning as such. And that's all that I kind of like proper look into. But like I said, you can walk out there, big smile on your face, and, you know, see people, and it's like, yeah, like, hope you're having a great time, and shit can be really hitting the fan backstage. Yeah. But obviously that is what it is. That's live events at the end of the day. It's tough. I probably come on like a little come down after an event. I always try, I don't know how I kind of describe it, but you can, I think it was at the US Open, and I'm not one to exaggerate, but I literally had probably on average 2 hours sleep a night, just because you go down there, and this was one thing that I found quite funny. You go down there as soon as the event you can get in there. So you've probably gone to sleep, you know, very late. You get down there at 6 a.m. and those bloody, like, did you see this US Open?
I did watch a few matches, yeah.
There was a few of these sponsor boards that were so flimsy, because obviously it was the first time doing the event. We've never got those boards before. First time we were using them, they're falling over left, right, centre. I knew they were shit. Every single person kept telling me they were shit, and I just kept sitting there like this. Yes, I know, they keep falling over, what sort of thing. And it was frustrating the hell out of it. And it got to and this is actually quite a funny story, because it got to the point that 6 a.m. every morning would come down with, Abigail would be there as well, and hood up, trackies, trainers, cap, and would be taping all of the legs to the boards. And obviously they're all filthy, so that's why you come down in your hoodie and such, put all that together. Then you go to the office, get everything sort of all ready and sorted when doors are opening, when the tournament's going to start. And then I quickly nip upstairs, wash my hair, try and shove makeup on, just to obviously try and make yourself look nice. And then you walk down and someone's like, oh, you look nice. Oh, you turned up at 10 o'clock or something like that. And you just stand there and go, yeah. And you want to punch someone in the face, because you're like, you have no idea what happens. And then I think it got to like day 3, and everyone was chipping in with these sponsor boards. And you could see, you know, like JP, Vincent, the whole team were coming together and just putting all the boards down. And then some of our referees basically couldn't hack the long hours, and they were just leaving. And they were just like, oh, our guys were just leaving and just not telling us. And John Lehman would come in and be like, we're 2 men down, sort of thing. We're like, okay. And then Vincent would be like, right, I'll do it. He'd be sitting there, shot clock at the table. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do it without the people that we work with, because we just wouldn't be able to achieve it. And I'm a bit funny with who we have on our team, because once you're in our team, you're family, you're blood, and we will back everyone and we will support everyone who is in that team, bend over backwards, always support them. And so that's why I'm always quite close about who we bring in and who we trust, sort of thing, because it's a tight-knit team. And if someone says jump, we say how high, kind of thing. And that's why I love the team that we've built, especially on our pool events, because that's why our events are so good, because we have that team that just delivers and supports one another.
Sounds like a great environment to work in. It's like it's go time and everybody just does what they need to do to get it done. And I just love that.
Yeah.
So you guys are running 5, I think I counted 5 major pool events right now. World Cup of Pool, World Pool Masters, obviously the Mosconi Cup, World Pool Championship, and US Open. So I guess in terms of like where you go from here, are you looking to add events, or are you looking to just make those events the absolute best they can be?
I think don't want to come aside from the fact that, the events that we have and lose sight or interest in them. The World Pool Masters is still a fantastic event. For years, we had, the 16 players in the world. They weren't the best 16 players. They were getting in because they were friends of someone, or they weren't the 16 best in the world, and that needed like huge attention to. So that's something that we addressed recently. We increased it to 24 players. Obviously that affects our bottom line because there's more players we need to give more prize money to. So making that move was for the future of the event, because felt that that's what it needed to be done. So it's important that we keep an eye on things like that. There's also things like the World Cup Pool, the format. Are we doing the best we can do with the format for the World Cup Pool? Some teams just come in and they get absolutely smashed 7-0. Should we be doing some race to 5s with groups as such? So teams get 3 tries at it instead of traveling 16 hours and getting done in sort of 20 minutes as such. So there's a lot of ideas like going round that we have in our team meetings to try and address the events that we already have, to try and make them better. Every time we do a Mosconi Cup, I will never repeat a seating plan. We always have to increase it. 100. We always have to keep increasing. Never repeat it. Ever since I've come into play, you got a seating plan from Vegas 2019. The next seating plan for Vegas has to increase, and we have to sell those out. Otherwise, we have not achieved what we need to achieve. That's our goal. Yeah. So we have goals to set for the events that we have in place. I have my own goals set where I want new events. It's not a case of, there's all these events out there, I want that one. It's just, opportunities come around. World Pool Championship was something that I had my eyes on a little bit, just because it's the championship at the end of the day. We're the front runners for the sport, and it should be under our wing as such, because we're the ones that can take it to the next level. There are lots of ideas that we've got to expand our roster of events, different events maybe in the US. I'd like to have a stronger hold in the US. Obviously, the plans that we had for that have kind of taken a step back because of the situation we're in, but that does open doors for maybe some more events here in the UK, similar to the snooker events that have been successful here. So always relentlessly working on the 5 that we have. We've only done 1 US Open so far. We actually did smash it out the park, but there's still tons of improvement for that. Haven't even done the World Pool Championship yet, so we might totally balls that one up. But yeah, still looking at new stuff, but we can't take our eye off the ball, and we can't ever deliver something below exceptional.
Yeah. And so, obviously you guys are doing amazing things for pool and growing the sport. But who else plays a role in growing the sport other than just Matchroom?
Yeah, I always say it's us. I don't think I'd be good at my job if I didn't always back us number one. But there's so many great people out there. Obviously, we work very closely with our partners, which are Predator, Kamui, Simonis, and Aramith, and Rasson are doing huge things, not only in pool but in snooker. They did this new quirky table design for the snooker that the players absolutely love them. The tables play fantastic. The first game we had at Championship League snooker on a Rasson table was a 147. And they also supply ping pong tables for us as well. So they do huge things for the sport too. The Rasson tables are beautiful. I love the modern design. But there are so many promoters out there. I love what Ozzy at CSI has done with his events. I think he's really stepped it up a gear. I think it was the Vegas CSI events 2 years ago, and obviously went to the one this year, and just the level of production had stepped up, and we've had the delight of working with them last year in the build up for the Mosconi Cup. So great operators. I think Ozzy probably shares the same vision that we share. That we just want to grow the sport. I mean, the more successful that Ozzy's events are, the more successful my events are as such. There's never any reason to clash with one another with dates, because at this time we should be ensuring that there is a tournament for the pool players to go bosh, 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 bosh sort of thing and go back to back to. They shouldn't be having to sit there and choose between the US Open and a Euro Tour event or something like that. We should all be working together. One thing that I really, really wanted to do, and it took a bit of a step back this year because of the global pandemic, is our ranking system. For years, the Mosconi Cup players have been selected just wildcards from USA, but we've had quite a strong structure for Team Europe. I really wanted to bring in something similar for Team USA. Kept being told as soon as I come into this side, like the special events side, that no, it's a waste of time trying to get a structure for Team USA Mosconi because there's not enough events over there. And it's like, right, okay, well, we don't give up there. Okay, there's not enough events over there, so let's make sure there's more events. So now finally, and I'm hoping maybe 2021, we don't know because of obviously the situation we're in, but I'd like to think that we say to promoters, okay, be a Mosconi Cup ranking event, be a qualifier for the US Open, do this, make sure there's a minimum prize money, let's ensure all the players are flying to your event so they can get onto the Mosconi Cup. I mean, we could, at the end of the day, we could just say, look, it's 5 wildcards every year and I choose who goes in, but there's no growing the sport for that. It'd ensure that I get the best Mosconi Cup I can get because I'm picking the players. Mm-hmm. But there's no building it from there. We need a talking point throughout the year. The players need to be traveling. They need to be earning their spot, and they need to be going to different events, seeing what promoters are putting on. And you know, at the end of the day, this sport's only going to grow if we have more events. And so the more promoters that can get involved, obviously we all know how much money it costs to put on an event. It's tough. So anything we can do to try and support to get more players to travel, to buy in and things like that, we're 100% behind. And I welcome any sort of promoters that want to chat, have some sort of, link to us for any of our events or anything like that. So there are a lot of people out there, I probably haven't named, that are really doing it for the sport, definitely.
What role can the players play in promoting the game, promoting the sport?
I think the players need to sometimes quit bitching about silly stuff. That's something I would openly say to them. Look, I don't know if you saw it, but I had a little rant on about social media with the players.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Everyone saw that. Do you know what? Oh gosh, I was having a really tough day, and Nick and Jake said to me, "Oh, Emily, we're going to do a bit on loose pull. We're going to just talk about what's going on." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And Nick just said to me, he goes, "Is there anything, winding you up?" And I just went in. I just couldn't help myself. But I think you can probably hear the passion in my voice. Like, I just have so much love for this game, not because I want to go out there and go play it myself, but because I see the potential that it has. And it's just not quite there yet. And unfortunately, I need the players' help. We all need the players' help. When we're going to a sponsor and we're saying, look at the Mosconi Cup, look at all these players that are on board, they'll go, well, I'm selling it. Okay, Shane Van Boning is biggest name in pool, everyone loves him. All of these people follow him on Facebook. They don't care about Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like Twitter, trending, Instagram. Oh, but he's not on Instagram. It's not. So that's where my outburst was from, because at the end of the day, they don't have to be sitting there saying, follow the Mosconi Cup, do this. Like, everyone has a life at the end of the day. And, Shane enjoys his fishing, and it's great if he wants to post that on social media, because people follow these guys. Like, they are fans of these guys. People are fans of Tiger Woods. People are fans of Michael Jordan. There's Netflix programs after Michael Jordan. But they're never going to get anywhere unless they interact with their audience. And that's what we need the players to be doing. And I will help them 100%. But there's only 6 of us in our multi-sport team. We've grown 2 people this year just because our events are growing. But we can't, it's not something we can fully take on board and handle all of the social media accounts for all the pool players. That's not something we can realistically do. But at the end of the day, it's their own responsibility. I have my own social media account. I know that it's draining. Sometimes I'm just like, Mosconi Cup, I just want to shut my social media off, because there's so much to do. And there's so many messages coming in. Why are you doing this? You're ruining the sport, kind of thing. Or, the Mosconi Cup looks great. And it's quite intense. It is very intense. But we need social media at the end of the day. And that was what I was trying to get across to the players. We need them to buy into that. Look, at the end of the day, and I tell them this every time, if they promote the sport, they help me professionalize it. You don't want to be doing an Instagram live of you out drinking as such. You encourage the younger generation, these small kids that are at these events. They look up to these players and they go, oh my God, I want to be a pool player. It's cool. That's my job. I need to market it and promote it in a way that looks cool for the younger generation, but they need to interact with those people. The more they do that, the more audience they grow. The bigger audience they grow, the more sponsorship I can get in. The more sponsorship I get in, the more I can raise prize fund, or the more events I can do. It's all just a ticking, sort of, it's just a circle at the end of the day, that we all need to be helping one another. I know I can probably be like just a nagging mum. I think that's what Team USA think I am. If you actually outright ask them, I'll probably ask them on Instagram Live, do you actually think that I'm just a really naggy mum? They'd be like, yeah, and roll their eyes. But I only do it because I love this game. I love the events so much. And I just want to see everyone excel. I want to see us do the best that we can. But we can't do it all on our own. I keep saying we're the best, but we do need everyone's help at the end of the day. So we just need them to help us promote and just interact with their fans.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think maybe even more than anything you said, there's opportunity for these players, right? Because once they gather this following on Instagram, people are sending you products and, they're making money. If they get several 100,000 followers, they're going to make money from it. So, Emily,
but they're not getting that. Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry, I was just saying they're not getting that. So it's not driving them to do it. Yeah. So as soon as one of them gets it, it will start to form.
Yeah.
So trying to prod that at the moment is very difficult, but we will get there. We'll get there.
Emily, I really appreciate your time. I know this is such a busy time of year for you, and you're preparing for the Mosconi Cup, and we're all excited to see what you have in store for us. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I just want to give you a chance to kind of leave the viewers with, anything you want to share about Mosconi Cup or Matchroom in general.
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot now, haven't you? What a great question. Well, look, if you're a pool fan and you're not watching the Mosconi Cup, then you are not a pool fan. It is going to be the event of the year. And I will say it now, regardless of anything that's happening, it will be memorable. In all these years to come, people will look back at 2020 and go, that was a great event. They won't say about COVID. It's a great event because it's going to be different. We've got lots of, engagement happening in the lead up. It's going to be different for the players because they're in this bubble. We've got a training day, which is kind of, if you watch any boxing and if you ever seen like an open workout, we're going to be doing that with the pool players. So people will have a chance to tune in and see the players interacting with their coach, getting the training day, how they're performing. That will be quite an interesting one. We haven't done that before, so we'll see how that goes. We got our press conference, and I don't like holding back. I'm going to be asking those awkward ask questions. So a lot of content is going to be churning out from Matchroom Pool for the Mosconi Cup. And I'm excited to hear everyone talk about it, really. I'm loving that everyone's buzzed about the event because it gets me excited, and I'll quite happily sit here till midnight working away just so we can obviously deliver something fantastic. And I think with 2021, so many things are going to change. The World Pool Championship, the US Open, the World Pool Masters, the World Cup Pool. I couldn't even tell you right now what is actually happening with those events. All I'm focused on right now is to deliver you a Mosconi Cup to an exceptional standard. As soon as we have information on any of the future events, we'll release it. But we want to make sure that we can, A, deliver it, and B, we don't have to keep rescheduling it as such. So I know there's a lot of questions about it, and there was a lot of questions around the Mosconi Cup. I always like to think we're quite transparent in any situation, like to always update the fans whenever we can, and we will be. But don't worry, because we're going to be absolutely fine, and we're still going to make sure that pool it's top of the list, and it's going to expand. So don't worry about it.